Okay, this does show that we're live on our YouTube. I'm also seeing that it's live on Facebook. So let me just give it a couple minutes to remind people that we're here. I'll double check and make sure that our connection and everything looks good before we get started.
And you got my list.
I did.
Okay,
I
good.
always love that because I know you're thinking ahead and, making sure that we've got some really good ideas to talk about, which is great.
I kind of keep the list all month, as
Yeah,
things come up.
it's funny because I do a similar thing on my end, but mine's with an email. So I'll open an email and I start writing, what I've done. And it's generally on a topic I don't want to forget all the small things that are still big things, right, in the scheme of it all.
Right.
So it works out very well. Let's see that. This one. My internet's thinking today. Doesn't want to quite wake up.
Because it's Friday.
Right?
It's going to be a
So,
rainy day.
oh my goodness, it is. I can't complain from all uh, the weather amount that we've been getting. It's great for us in Greater Colorado, but it is a constant, it seems like, right?
Well, and they are saying torrential rains today and tomorrow, like
Oh,
flood.
really? Like
Yeah,
heavy,
like
heavy.
heavy and floods.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Are you still with me?
Yeah, you almost lost me.
Oh, you're okay. Well, speaking of, I think we'll go ahead and get started. And then if we run into issues, I ask that those of you that are tuned with us now or later give us a little bit of grace. Tech issues are always happening, but especially when the weather is a little crummy outside, it ends up being even more exasperated. So we'll just go ahead and get this thing kicked off. I see a notification that's showing up. So likely our viewers are beginning to get notified that we're live and can join us. And whether you are viewing this in real time later on, evening, afternoon, weekend, we thank you for doing your part and staying informed on what's going on in our community. We bring you these live broadcasts as a way to hear about what's happening in our local city hall, municipality, what's happening in our counties that still affects us and our local community. What are some of those businesses that might be around that you may not be aware of, and how can you support them? And that's generally the flow through of all of the live broadcasts that we have. We host a couple a week, and then, of course, one time a month, we're able to bring on here our Jefferson County Commissioner Tracy Kraft Tharp to give us an update from the Jeffco lens. A lot of this information we then pull and are able to follow up through our e-blasts with, and also on our website. So if you ever have an appetite to see some more details around some of that information outside of the links and the comments that I pull in the chat, we also do our best to try and feature those in other communications that we have, which takes me to my next ask. And that is, if you're not already connected with us on all of our social platforms, we are socially connected at Westy Chamber Official on Instagram. Of course, we're here on Facebook, Westminster Chamber of Commerce, and on YouTube being streamed right now on the Westminster Chamber of Commerce's page is this video. In addition, we're on LinkedIn, and we've got our website, westminsterchamber.biz. If you haven't gone to it before, that has a wealth of resources. The way you can engage with us today is a few different ways outside of just listening and tuning into the information that you're ready to absorb. You can hit the share button on this video so others in your network can see that we're live and can also join us onto our video. You can also comment with us directly on the video any thoughts that you might have or any questions that come to mind, and we'll do our best to loop that into the conversation. And last but not least, thumbs up, emojis, those hearts, those cares, we love them all. Be sure to share them so we can see who's engaged with us on this broadcast. I will go ahead and pause since I know that I've eaten up a little bit with this housekeeping. And our County Commissioner, Tracy Kraft Tharp, thank you so much for being on here with me, fitting us into your crazy busy schedule and having some of these great updates for us to learn from, absorb, and maybe engage in.
Hi, Juliet. Welcome to end of August. So, are our friends on?
Yes, we've got a couple. No one's given us comments yet, so I don't think our usual cheerleaders are here yet.
Our fan club? Where are they? I think
I
you
know.
should call them and wake
Right.
them up on this rainy, cloudy Friday morning.
I know. I don't blame them. It is rainy. And right before we went live, or maybe right at the start, if you all heard the tail end of that, Commissioner Kraft Tharp and I were talking about this rain that's out there and how gloomy it is. But she was sharing, and I had no idea about this when I, ran out the door, that the next couple of days it's a torrential pour that's
They
coming
are
down.
saying torrential,
Yeah.
like inches and inches and inches, and flood alerts.
That's wild. So be careful if you go out. If you are going for business, for personal, picking up those kiddos, just be sure that you are adding in time that may account for some of the weather concerns. We've got our past chairman, Brian Head, who just shared a quick good morning. I wanted to share him your way, Commissioner Kraft Tharp.
Good morning, Mr. Head.
Yeah. All right.
He
Well,
just
let's.
he just sent his daughter to college, so yeah.
He did. He did.
Yes. So before we get started, I guest going rogue, and want to ask you, Juliet, talk to us about the state of the city.
Yes.
How
Thank
was it,
you.
and what is the state of the city?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And if for those of you that may not be aware, the State of the City is an annual event that the Chamber partners with the City of Westminster on. It really brings in this relevant, timely data, facts, what's happening in the community. We deliver a keynote with our mayor, and then there's generally some sort of a feature that we highlight. And it's about topics that we hear that are super popular in the community, questions that people have been asking us throughout the year. So this year we had our keynote actually as the mayor, and it was tag teamed with the city manager, Mr.
Oh,
Freitag. So we were able to kind of get an idea on what's happening down in the TOD, the downtown Westminster, what legislatively did the city get behind and maybe need assistance on, all the way to fire, police, hiring, and all of the changes that we've seen over the last year were really vetted and discussed. Now, the cool part and probably the best thing that came out of this was the special feature. And I don't know how we're going to change it up and make it different next year because the feedback was great. It was our fireside chat, and we actually had in our new police chief, Norm Hobart, and we had our senior deputy leadership from the fire department, Eric. And so all four of them kind of were on here answering these questions that were coming through via text, via question cards. And it was, I mean, about those common concerns that people we've heard lately, right? The mental health, what resources are out there, all the way to safety and, police officers and speed checks, to water and the cost behind some of the parts. I mean, such detailed questions and thoughtful questions from some of these attendees that came out and joined us. So great event, great program. We'll be back again next year, of course, with another one. You're more than welcome, whether you're a member of the chamber, to attend it or not. You can still attend and engage. And we're going to try and make sure that we avoid the budget time for Jeffco
yeah.
because it seems like that has been, and we did mention that. We mention it every couple of
Okay.
years. When we've had, it was funny because one time we had Adams County as a special feature. And they're like, oh, they they protested. It's like, well, it seems like they always have the budget meetings right around this time. So we're going to try and circumvent that. But I thank you for, of course, communicating and staying in the loop on the event, even in your absence.
Of course. Well, I'm so sorry I wasn't able to be there. I'm going to talk a little bit about the budget process in a little bit. But we had budget meetings scheduled at the same time, and I was asking staff, please, can't we make some changes? And we weren't able to. So, but I knew it would be a success. You do great events, Juliet. So
Thank
I'm
you.
really sorry I wasn't there. And where were you located?
We were at the DoubleTree by Hilton here in Westminster,
And the
right on
food
the
was good?
36. Huh?
The food was good?
Oh my gosh, the food was amazing. Actually, that's another comment. I mean, I off the charts this year in feedback from attendees. But I had someone share, oh my gosh, what is this menu? I'm feeling really classy with it. Another. I mean, they had
Right.
lobster ravioli. We had prime rib for those that prefer the meatless
Wow.
options or gluten free. I mean, it was just, it was a different venue, a space, great welcoming
Yeah.
group that we had. So to all of the presenting sponsors, all of our VIP from the school district Premier Members Credit Union to several of our other partners, they really truly made this event possible.
Good, because we do want to give a shout out to both the event and the sponsors, because that's important.
Yes, absolutely.
So good. Okay, well, I have a list of things to go through, updates from the county, but really want to encourage people to ask questions. So if there's something that's happening in the county, something that you've heard about, a rumor you've heard about, information you want to know more about, post that, and Juliet will make sure that I address that. Okay. So the first thing is, that we meet on, as commissioners, we have our hearings and our briefings on Tuesdays. That's our big county day. We start at 8 o'clock with the hearing. We go as long as it takes, and then we go into our briefings. We are going to make a change. Yeah, I know. We did some polling, not really polling, informal polling on social media.
Okay.
On Facebook and at our town meeting and on our website to ask people their opinion around the time that we started. We started hearing from some of our staff. They were having problems getting their kids to school in the morning and being able to be there by 8 o'clock for the hearings. That's a problem.
That's huge.
So, yeah, so what we heard from the general public is that moving to 9 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock would either not be a problem for them or it was better for them. So, starting, I think, September 26th, we are going to be moving to 9 o'clock. We will continue to be virtual and live. So, if you get there at 8 o'clock, have a cup of coffee, put your feet up. We'll be on our way in getting ready, but just want to let people know that.
That's great. And I know that's been a challenge for some folks that do have families or others, that are trying to commute from one place to the next. The traffic doesn't slow down, especially at that time of the day. So that'll
Right.
hopefully allow for greater engagement, whether in person or virtual. Those options are always available to you for those public hearings.
And we have people that come down from Evergreen and Conifer to talk about different issues because they don't have a municipal government. We are their municipal government. And so we have quite a few people participate in our hearings and our briefings. And it could be a trek get there by 8 o'clock in the morning from Evergreen
Sure.
and Conifer. So hopefully 9 o'clock will work out for people, and hopefully our staff can get people to school and be able to have a
Time
calmer,
to breathe.
right, a calmer morning. Yeah, so that'll help.
Well, good.
Okay, so next I want to talk about short-term rentals. Short-term rentals are when you rent your house to either through Airbnb, through VRBO, or you might do it on your own for folks who are going on vacation. There's a lot of advantages to that. What we're finding both in Jefferson County and also statewide is that there's a lot of people that are concerned about the renters being in their neighborhood, concerned about are we regulating it strong enough, and concerned about are we permitting. You actually have to get a permit to use your house for a short-term rental. Very few people do. So, we either continue permitting and fine people or we let it go. So there's a lot of questions involved. So the county is looking at the short-term rental regulations. I got to tell you, this is a hot topic. There was a meeting in Evergreen on this topic. 90 people showed up.
Oh my gosh.
90 people, a spontaneous meeting. Yes. So we're taking it pretty seriously. We're looking
One
at.
moment.
Is that you?
No.
One moment.
Was
Okay.
that you?
Working on that.
What is that?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm having trouble with the connection. Please try again later.
Ah, okay. Someone will come. We had a ghost. There's a ghost on here.
That's too funny. I don't know what that is.
That is great. That is great. So pens and papers. Let's see. I have some dates and times to give to people on
Yes.
short-term rental meetings. There will be an in-person meeting on short-term rental regulations on August 30th, and that will be in hearing room 1 over at the Jeffco Administration Taj Mahal building. So that's August 30th, in person at 6 o'clock. Then on September 12th, there'll be a virtual meeting at 3 o'clock, and that information will be on our webpage, jeffco.us. Also, everybody come on my Facebook page at Tracy for Jeffco, because I post all this information so you could follow up with it. Okay, so that's our first date to let people know about.
Yes.
Okay, and then I've mentioned this before. We are looking at our planning and zoning process. And basically, what we're doing is we have an amazing director of development and transportation, Avel Montoya. And Avel has put together this process called Together Jeffco, where we are tearing apart the planning and zoning process, putting it back together again. How can we make it more efficient, more effective, not quite as expensive, which will help with housing affordability. And in that process, looking at redoing a lot of our county plans. And so there have been meetings around the county. Really want to encourage everybody. If you have been involved in a permitting process with Jefferson County, either participate in Together Jeffco or contact me directly. Let me know what could have been better and what worked. What did we do that worked for you? So we want to make sure we keep the good stuff, get rid of the bad stuff. So it's called Together Jeffco, and it's on the Jeffco um, website. So that's another process. So as I mentioned earlier, we are in budgeting. It's an annual process.
Mm-hmm.
It's months and months. So this last week we have met every day for 3 to 4 hours every day. What we are in right now is where the departments come to us. They talk to us about what they're doing in their department, what their needs are, and what their financial needs are, and they make requests.
Mm-hmm.
We finished that up yesterday at 3 o'clock. Monday, the county commissioners are going to have a conversation around what we heard, the needs from all of the different departments, and what we see as mandatory needs, probably statutory requirements, cool things we'd love to do. And boy, if we won the lottery, we sure would love to do that. So we're going to kind of divide things up into those three categories. Um, Give those to staff. Staff are going to do their magic, put together a preliminary budget. Beginning of October, they will come to us with that preliminary budget. We will work on that, and then we go into a Tuesday morning hearing and be able to approve that. So, Juliet, I know the question you're asking.
Yeah.
What is the financial status of the county? Right now, what we are looking at in the 2024 budget is a $19 million deficit.
Okay.
Yes, a $19 million deficit. That's what we are looking at. So those numbers will be massaged. We'll be working that out. We'll look at what kind of ARPA dollars could we use again this year. Um, Remember, we have reserves.
Mm-hmm.
Are we doing the statutory requirement of reserves? Do we have anything we could pull out of that? So that may look different in October, but that is the status of the county.
And do we know if that has continued to increase, Commissioner Kraft Tharp, or has that consistently stayed the same as far as a deficit over the last few years?
No, we know that it has continued to increase. You want to ask why?
Yes.
It's called Tabor. Part of what has happened over the years, we have a Tabor cap of which we can collect revenue. Anything above that revenue limit has to be refunded. So whether we need it or not, it has to be refunded. What happened during COVID is revenues itself decreased, that ratcheted down our Tabor cap.
Mhm.
So it allowed us less money that we could keep.
Mhm. Mhm.
So our Tabor cap has gone down, our refunds are going up, our deficits are going up.
Mhm. How has, and this is just like me randomly throwing, I know we haven't really prepared any of these, but how has the county gone back and looked at, clearly this taper isn't yesterday that it was created. This has been around for some time, right? And as we've continued to see a deficit year over year, has there been any effort to kind of analyze what we as a county are doing? What are some things that we could be doing differently? What innovative ideas can we think about to try and offset some of what's transpiring instead of the and I know when we talk about Tabor, we're trying to talk about here's what we believe is the cause of this, but what else is being done to try and mitigate that? Or has it just been we continue to do and dip in the pools that we have with the hopes that we might vote something that overturns that?
So a couple things. One is the county has gone to the people and asked for a debrucing twice. Once was a full debrucing, meaning that all Tabor money that all property tax revenue that comes in we can keep, and it
Mhm.
eliminates that Tabor cap.
Mhm.
That was in 2018, 2019, and that failed. Last year we went to the people and said, "Hey, when we get a state grant, so federal grants are exempt from Tabor. When we get a state grant, can we exempt that from the Tabor calculation?
Mhm.
Because that would help. For example, our sheriff's department last year received a $500,000 state grant for body worn cameras. Absolutely needed, but it threw us way over on the Tabor cap. So, you got to do what you need, but at the same time, there's financial repercussions to that. So we asked the people in the ballot initiative, can we just debruce the state cap from the limit? And people said no.
Mhm.
Um, so, um, so those are some of the things that we've done. One of the things that we did a lot of presentations last year all around
Mhm.
the community to talk to people about the status of Jefferson County, the financial status, what are we doing, what can we do, why we're looking at debrucing. One of the things that we are looking at doing and that we just approved, I think last week, is we're hiring a consultant for that consultant to come in and look at should we go in for a ballot initiative next year on debrucing? What should it look like? What would need to be done to make that successful? And are there other financial mechanisms that we could use to help us? Because the long run, it's a problem. One of
Mhm.
the things that has really helped us the last number of years is the CARES dollars, the
Mhm.
federal CARES dollars, and now the ARPA dollars. So we
Mhm.
received 113 million ARPA dollars from the feds. That has helped fund a lot of existing services. So
Mhm.
that has helped us.
Mhm.
Does that
Yeah,
answer your
it's
question,
absolutely
Juliet?
a help. Yeah, it does, and and I think that hopefully it answers if someone's kind of thinking the same thing. But it always raises the question. And I know that you mentioned about ARPA and looking at those pools of dollars, which is great that we have those, but when you don't have them, right, how does that continue to progress and what does that look like, and the sustainable side, financial sustainability of that? So you did answer that, and I hope that if anyone had a similar question or thought as they're viewing this, whether it's now or later, that touched on that as well.
So one of the concerns is we received this $113 million ARPA dollars, and that's helping to fund some of the needs of the county that we're having. So that ARPA dollars, that ends. What
Mm-hmm.
happens then? And what
Right.
we're calling it is the cliff.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we going to fund the things we've been funding through ARPA? And then
Yes.
what are we going to do? So that's the concern. So we can probably figure out this $19 million deficit for this year
For now.
for
Yeah.
now. But it's looking 2025, 2026 is the scary parts.
Yes, I
Yeah.
feel that. I totally get it. And that was the crux of that question. So I
Yes.
appreciate you being transparent and explaining what's been happening and what it might look like here moving forward with the consultant, and how the community can kind of be more aware of what's happening around that.
Right. I'm pretty financially conservative. And so I've been looking at this budget matter, with very, very tight eyes. I mean, I've been involved in budgeting both with nonprofits on the state level, and so really look at it with a pretty tight fiscal eye.
Well, and I think that speaks to anyone, any of our residents. I think appreciates that, right? Where you're trying to do the most with what you're given and provided, rather than, because that's what they're entrusting you with. They're entrusting you with doing what's good for the public, and here's what you have. So I think you have to have a level of, and I don't know if being conservative about it, but even just having the scrutiny of where each of those dollars are going and is it being used the best way possible, I think is a valid statement that any of our residents can get behind and support.
Exactly. It's our tax dollars. They need to be used in the right way. And we need to, we have this belief that, oh, we send money into you and you don't need it, so that's why you refund it. And that is not the case. Not the case at all. So in that realm, let me make sure everybody knows that we, because of the valuation of people's homes, our property taxes went up. So people paid more in property taxes, right? In your property tax bill, 24 cents of every dollar goes to the county. 50 cents of every dollar goes to the school district. The other 26 cents goes to special districts. Like I think we have developmental disabled school district, we have our firefighters to help us with firefighting services. So there's a number of special districts we have. So the county receives 24 cents out of every dollar. This last year, 2022, because you're always behind, in what you came in with, we received $42 million more in money because in property taxes because of the increased valuations of our houses. Okay, so $42 million more came in. We are refunding, because of the taper cap, $39.4 million. So in October, $39.4 million will be sent back to people in the form of checks. People will receive. You remember 2 years ago, you got a check for $4 from the state. Last year, you got a check for about $40 from the state. This year, it's going to be between $93 and $200.
Okay.
And that will continue to go up because of exactly what we were talking about earlier, Juliet. So people say, you must be sending me this check because you don't need it. No, that is not the case. We're sending back this check because of Tabor and the Tabor calculation, because our Tabor cap was ratcheted down during COVID when revenues went down. So it's not money that we don't need. It's money that, because of the Tabor constitutional amendment, that we have to send that back.
Absolutely. And the difference, if I'm doing my math correctly, is that the county would retain at least 2.6 million from that increase in the valuation.
This is only the county portion. The 42 million and the 39.4 is only from the county perspective.
Based on the breakdown that you've given me above.
Right. The school district is de-bruised, so they can take everything that comes in.
Okay.
The special districts are de-bruised, so they could take everything that comes in. The county is not de-bruised, so we have to live with the Tabor cap.
Okay. That makes sense.
And do I have time to go over property taxes?
Yeah, we have a couple minutes. I don't see any questions. I do see people hopping on and off. So thank you to those of you that are joining us in Commissioner Kraft Tharp's updates that are timely for us today. Most of this is included in the conversation, is included in the chat. You can always rewind, rewatch, replay, send us questions, send them later, send them now. We'll get back to you. But you've got a couple minutes before we close out.
Perfect. I know that this is all a little nerdy. Number one, this is fascinating to me, but number two, this is important information for people. So I want to talk about property taxes. We've talked about this before, that your property taxes went up this year. You received an assessment, a postcard saying that the assessment on your house went up. My house, I never thought I would live in a house that was worth this much. I'm totally impressed with me. The bad news is that because my house is worth so much more, I have to pay more property taxes, because you pay it on the increased valuation. That's what people found out in June. A number of people appealed that. They turned in comparable estimates from other houses in their neighborhood to show, my house is not worth that much. you should not value it that high. And
Okay.
actually, usually we get about 13,000 appeals. This year we got 28,600 appeals. Okay, so a
Wow.
lot more people appealed. The assessor's office has been working on those appeals. What they look at is the comparables. You could go online, you could check out the comparables for your house on the assessor's webpage. And so we had to give them an additional $136,000 to help because they had so many appeals that they had to work on.
Wow.
Their deadline was August 14th. They have sent out postcards to people telling people what the result of that determination is. Result is that 79% of the appeals were determined to be not valid.
79%?
79%. I was as surprised as you are looking, Julia.
Wow.
Yes. So now what happens is of those 79% that their appeals were turned down, they can now appeal that determination. And they appeal that to the Board of Equalization. The Board of Equalization is county commissioners.
Mm.
So we go into a meeting as the Board of Equalization. And we listen to people's appeals
Mhm.
on when they were denied. Okay, great. So the deadline for all this is September 14th. There are referees, volunteers in the community who have experience in this area who are hired by the county to look at each individual case and then they make recommendations to the Board of Equalization. Those referees are paid $85 an hour. They need 3 more. So we have a total of 15, but we are short 3 more. They will start working pretty quickly. It's $85 an hour. You could work for 1 hour. You could work for 40 hours. But they will be starting that work pretty quickly. So if people have experience in the area, in assessments and equalization and determinations, if that you have experience in that, you want to make some $85 an hour work, however many hours for the next, couple weeks, let us know, but let us know pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And again, we had to allocate the county attorney's office, which works on the Board of Equalization. We had to allocate them an additional $136,000 because of the additional work, because of the huge volume of work that needs to be done. So that's the process. Totally confusing, Juliet?
It's not. It's actually pretty clear cut. We spoke to folks when that was happening and told them there were probably tax valuations gone out. If you have questions about it, here's what you need to do. Here's where you go if you would like to appeal. And then we actually shared with them once that deadline had passed and told them the next process is a review. So honestly, we have been adding to our communication and letting them know where it's going, what it sounds like, and based off how many you have, and if I've written it out okay, there's at least 22,594 that have the ability to appeal. If it's 79% of the 20,
I'm impressed with you.
isn't that crazy?
Yes.
That wild. So we'll be curious to see how many of those, come forward, and then how many of those obviously make it through that process and what the outcome does look like. Of course, it's still a great opportunity to be able to contest and have the ability to speak if you feel like that you have the valid point to be made as a homeowner, as a resident that's here in our community. So thank you, Commissioner Kraft Tharp, for those updates around the property tax. Are you still with me, or have I lost you? If someone's tuned in with me and I haven't, if anyone oh, there you are. I was
Yes.
like, am I the one that's frozen, or is it you?
You froze first, so I just kept talking while you came back.
Okay, well, hopefully they got that pretty darn well.
Yes. So what I was just saying was all this year is based upon the increased valuations of our houses.
Yeah.
Next year, so the valuation of your house changes every 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So next year when they do the evaluation of your house for the following year's property tax assessment, that's where we will see the effect of the repeal of Gallagher.
Okay.
And we can expect property taxes to go up based upon the repeal of the Gallagher Amendment.
That makes sense. We
Yeah.
do have a quick question that came through. I think it's fine for us to answer if you're comfortable answering this, and then we may close out since we're a little bit over. This does come to us from Dave, who's tuned in with us from YouTube, and he's asking in regard to the percentage that were approved or were okayed with this feedback that they provided and were able to contest it. Do you know if they were actually reduced, or did they turn around and say, actually, you're in the wrong, it should be higher, and here's what it is?
Hi, Dave Carpenter. We were going to call you and ask you where you were because we were waiting for you this morning.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Thanks for the question. I don't know the answer to that. I also saw that on TV where someone in another county appealed their assessment, and the county came back and said, actually, you owe more than what we had originally assessed you for. I haven't heard any of that we've had any of those cases, Dave. So I'm assuming that for all those people, their property taxes were reduced.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you so much for that question, Dave. And thank you, Commissioner Kraft Tharp, for staying over to update us on all of this information. We have done our part in trying to capture some of the comments in the chat for you so you can easily find some of that to support you following and perhaps reviewing this video or coming back to it at a later point. If you do watch this and we're no longer live, we want that hashtag replay. It makes our life much easier too when you have a question, you give us that because it'll pull up right on our end and we can see it. A great resource for you, and a lot of the information that we've spoken to is found on the jeffco.us page. That is also included in the comment section and chat section for you as well. Commissioner Kraft Tharp's on here with us every month, so if you have pressing questions, be sure that you share them with us on these broadcasts. You can share it before we go live, right as we're live, or between now and the next time as a follow-up to the content that we share today. But I do hope that you all will share this out to your network so that they are updated around all things going on in the county. It's a lot of things that apply to our residents in the community, and if you're not a part of the process, then you're missing out on being as engaged and possibly benefiting along the way and knowing all this information. So enjoy the weekend, stay dry, and keep in mind that there might be a lot of pour down. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.